My God, let's talk about Lord Morris Brown. A week ago, y'all, we reported right here on the show that Morris Brown fired its president, Dr. Kevin James. Okay, that's what they told us. Fired Dr. Kevin James. Here we are, a week later, he's now being reinstated. You're like, what? I'm sorry, what the world just happened? Yeah, they sent out a statement to everyone stating that he was being reinstated. Now, keep in mind, they fired him, did not say why he was being fired. They did not share with anybody the reasons, anything along those lines. They announced that an interim president, a board member, was going to be coming in. And this is what dropped today. The Board of Trustees of Morris Brown College issues the following statement regarding Dr. Kevin James as 19th president. The board today announces its decision to rescind the termination of Dr. Kevin James. As part of a mutually agreed upon resolution on January 16, 2026, he accepted the invitation to return as the president of Morris Brown College. Dr. James has served Morris Brown College with distinction for 7 years, leading the institution through a period of significant progress, restoration, and renewed national visibility. His leadership, vision, and steadfast commitment have been instrumental to the college's advancement and stability. The board looks forward to Dr. James' continued leadership, vision, and dedication to the college's advancement. Now, this is where it's crazy. After careful review, the board determined that Dr. James' separation from the college did not fully comply with the procedural and contractual requirements outlined in its employment agreement. As fiduciaries of this institution, the board recognizes its responsibility to adhere to established governance standards and to correct actions that fall short of those obligations. The board acknowledges that this period has been disruptive and painful for members of the Morris Brown community. The board deeply regrets the harm this has caused our institution, students, families, donors, supporters, and Dr. James. While correcting a governance and process failure is necessary, the board recognizes that this action alone does not resolve broader concerns that have been raised regarding workplace culture, trust, and the experience of employees. The board takes seriously the concerns voiced by members of our community and affirms that retaliation against individuals who raise concerns in good faith is not acceptable. Now, the board is committed to ensuring that appropriate processes exist for concerns to be raised safely, reviewed fairly, and addressed responsibly. To that end, the board will take additional steps to review governance practices and institutional processes with the goal of restoring and strengthening trust, transparency, and accountability across the Morris Brown community. Morris Brown College remains steadfastly focused on its mission, its students, and its future. Morris Brown Board of Trustees. This right here, y'all, this lays out here members of the Morris Brown Board. Go to my iPad. You see it right here. Right Reverend Bishop Michael Mitchell, Mr. Darrell Hicks, Mr. Terry Comer, Dr. Kevin James ex officio, Muhammad Bala, Reverend Dr. Gwendolyn Boyd, Pedro Bryant, Dr. James Ures Jr., Dr. Lisa Herring, Mr. Gregory Jackson, Mr. Eric Thornton, Mr. Antoine Walker, Miss Sandra Mason, Miss Lisa Tolliver, Mr. Clarence Williamson, Dr. Marvin Brown, ex officio, Miss Kyla Hicks, ex officio, SGA President Morris Brown. Y'all, the statement that Morris Brown College released today is 100% bullshit. It is shameful. It is despicable. let me be perfectly clear, okay? There are two main responsibilities of a board of trustees or a board of an organization. Two. First, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the institution or the organization. That's number one. You don't screw up the money. You watch the money like a hawk. You spend appropriately. You make cuts when necessary. You watch. You have more inflow than outflow. But the second is governance. Number two, your job is to deal with the president. You don't run the institution. You deal with the president. I've been a 4-time board member now, National Association of Black Journalists. Do you know who we hire? The executive director. Do you know who manages the staff? The executive director. ED screws up, we getting his or her ass. It's governance. And so here you have a board of trustees admitting they are incompetent. Admitting it. They are admitting their level of incompetence. You mean to tell me that they actually posted in a press release, after careful review, the board determined that Dr. James, come on, go to it, Dr. James' separation from the college did not fully comply with the procedural and contractual requirements outlined in his employment agreement? That means you dumbasses fired the president and you didn't even read his fucking contract before you did? Do y'all know how dumb that is? Y'all, I have fired a lot of people. I've hired a lot of people. And if there's somebody who has a contract and I want to terminate them, do you know what's the first thing I do? I get a copy of their contract. And then I read the contract. And then I say, how long is the contract? I then go to the for cause section of the contract. I then go to the without cause section of the contract. I then study the penalties in the contract. I look at it and say, what is it going to cost us if we get rid of this person? Do we have to pay health care? Do we have to pay dental? Do we have to pay into a retirement account? I look at all of that. That's what real leaders do. You don't fire somebody and not look at their contract. When they fired him, you know the first thing that I did? I called him. Sure did. Now, we're not friends, but I've met him. I've been to the campus like many other presidents who I can call. And what did he tell me? What he posted in his Facebook. I got a contract. It's up in 2029. He said he just had an evaluation. Let me explain to y'all how easy it is to get sued. If you fire somebody with 3 years left on their contract and they just had an evaluation, let me tell you something. That means that when you get sued, you then have to explain in depositions and to the court what transpired between their review and your decision to fire them, and was it for cause? And so if it wasn't for cause, then you're going to have to negotiate a settlement. So let it be as clear as I possibly can. Do you know what needs to happen? And all this little, the members, we know it's been tough or whatever. I'm very clear. That also, by the way, I wouldn't be shocked by this. I know the press release said the board of trustees. I would not be shocked that there's no record of the entire board voting on this. I will put money that this was not a unanimous decision to fire James. I bet you the whole board wasn't on the call. I would love to know what the actual vote was to fire him and then what the vote was to reinstate him. So let me say this here. Every board member of Morris Brown College who participated in the decision to fire Dr. Kevin James must resign today. They all should resign. What you have done is you have grossly embarrassed your university. You have shown that you are incompetent to lead. You have proven that you cannot be trusted to lead. If you are a board member, you are admitting that you participated in the firing of a president and you didn't even follow proper governance, and you didn't even follow procedures, you didn't even follow the basics of an HR manual, then you have no business being on the Board of Trustees. And I remember the press release that's sent out. And I don't know who he is, but I'll say this here. The Right Reverend Bishop Michael Mitchell, the presiding prelate of the 6th District of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the chair of the board, you need to resign. You need to quit today, because this clearly says you have no business leading the Morris Brown College Board if you did not even have enough common sense to ask to see his contract first and to say, hey, General Counsel, are we doing this properly? Are we following proper procedures? Sounds to me like y'all made an arbitrary decision, y'all didn't read nothing, and then he exposed your level of incompetence, and now, a week later, you've got to look like a dog with his tail caught between his legs and like, oh, we mutually agreed to come back. No, that ain't what happened. You had no choice but to rescind it because you knew you were going to get your asses sued and you knew you were going to lose in court, and then you're going to have to pay this man 3 years of his contract and then pay an interim president. This is flat out crazy. What happened here, y'all, makes no sense whatsoever. This should never happen. Not with a college, not with a HBCU. This shouldn't happen with a nonprofit with $10 in the bank. This is basic. And I'm telling you right now, if somebody was willing to give Morris Brown $1 million or $100,000 or $10,000 or $100,000, I don't have the confidence in the Morris Brown board to give y'all $10 when you come out with a statement and you admit you don't know what the hell you are doing. And I know somebody might be saying, damn, Ro, that's hardcore. No, it's not. Y'all, we just went through a search for executive director of the National Association of Black Journalists. I knew it was jacked up, and we knew there were problems with it. Do you know what happened? We had a general board meeting. It was on a Saturday. We had an election, and I got elected to the board on Friday. We didn't get sworn in until Sunday. And we had the meeting on Saturday. You know what I did? I sat there and I questioned every single board member on the process. Did you vote on the contract? No, we did not. Did you actually see the details of the contract? No, I did not. Do y'all know why I was asking all those questions? Because you know what? I actually read the goddamn Constitution. I understood that we have an operating procedures in NABJ and we have a constitution. But I also know as somebody who's actually written constitutions, and being a parliamentarian, anybody would tell you that your operating procedures do not override your constitution. Your constitution always overrides your operating procedures. They voted on a new ED based upon the operating procedures and not the Constitution. The Constitution clearly states that, guess what? That the board is to vote on it. And so there were board members who clearly had not even read the Constitution. Do you know what the Constitution is for a board? It's literally your damn manual. It's your damn owner's manual. That's what you do. When you join a board, the first thing you do is say, can I please get a copy of the board constitution or the operating procedures so I can understand exactly what my job and duties are. So then I read through the Constitution and I then go, here are the duties of the president, here's the duty of the vice chair or this treasury and the secretary. It's real basic. And so when you read the Constitution, you sit there and go, I need to understand what's going on. Let me help y'all out. This ain't to, oh man, when you 57 years old. No, let me help y'all out. I was a national student representative on the board of the National Association of Black Journalists in 1989. And the student rep did not have a vote on the board until one day I was sitting here reading the Constitution and reading the bylaws. And then I noticed something. In the bylaws, this was actually in January of 1990. This took place at a board meeting at the Porter Institute in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I was sitting here studying the Constitution for a year, y'all, and I was sitting here saying, I see a problem here, because in the bylaws, it said that the national student representative did not have a vote on the board of directors. But then over here, I was studying the Constitution, and the Constitution said the board is comprised of the following individuals. And I said, well, wait a minute, that's weird. The Constitution, the bylaws say I can't vote, but the Constitution lists me as a member of the board. And so then I'm sitting here reading, I'm like, well, wait a minute. The Constitution does not explicitly state that, that the president, the vice president, the regional directors actually have a vote. The Constitution simply implies, it assumes they have a vote. I said, well, wait a minute. The bylaws and the Constitution are in conflict. And when the bylaws of the Constitution are in conflict, Constitution overrides the bylaws. So I went to the parliamentarian, Jackie Jones, and said, Jackie, let me ask you a question. This is what the bylaws say, and this is what the Constitution says. I said, so am I correct to say that over here, I have a right to vote? Over here, I don't have a right to vote. And over here, doesn't this override that? She says, yes, it does. I said, correct me if I'm wrong. You're the parliamentarian. You have the final authority to weigh in on any parliamentary procedures or the Constitution or the bylaws. She says, yes, I am. I said, so what that tells me is I can vote. She says, that is true. And we walked into the board meeting, and when I sprung it on them, all hell broke loose. You know why? Because I actually read the damn documents. That's called governance. Y'all, that was 1989. I was a college student. So you mean to tell me, go to my iPad, you mean to tell me that all of these people who are sitting on the board of directors of Morris Brown College, the presiding prelate, a financial advisor, the founder and CEO of Impact Data, you mean to tell me that the CFO of the city of Atlanta, executive search consultant, the president CEO of Uni National Bank, education consultant, youth advocate, the president of Propel Center, the president CEO of Jackson Asset Management, the founding president of Firm Care Life Sharing, let's see, the president of the National Alumni Association, and the director of Accountability Courts, DeKalb County. Ain't that something? Accountability Courts. Then you have the second alumni rep, retired assistant director of student support services, DeKalb County Colleges, and the manager of community relations for Georgia Power, and the head of communications for CSBB Wells Fargo. And then you have an ex officio faculty rep and an SGA president. You mean to tell me that folk with titles as president and CEO and founder did not have enough common sense to actually read your own governance procedures and the contract of your president? And now y'all look like some fools firing Dr. Kevin James a week ago, instituting him, reinstating him a week later, and we're supposed to go, hey, it's business as usual. No, this is weak, impotent leadership. And if you are a graduate of Morris Brown, if you are a donor of Morris Brown, if you are a student of Morris Brown, if you're the parent of a student of Morris Brown, you should be embarrassed with what this Board of Trustees has done. The only thing, the righteous thing that they should do is every person that participated in the firing of Dr. Kevin James should tender their resignation tonight, because what they have done is failed as a member of the Board of Trustees. My next guest, Dr. Erin Lynch, she actually called it. She said, oh, they're going to reinstate him. She's the president of Quality Education for the Minorities Network. And you dropped some Instagram videos and you said, they're going to reinstate him. Watch, it's going to happen next week. And boom, like clockwork, it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's for every reason that you called, right? The data just didn't make sense as to why they got rid of him. This was clearly an emotional decision, and it was not evidence-based. So, yeah.
And here's the deal, okay? I'm not here to defend Dr. James. I don't know why they made the decision. Again, I don't know. I know of him. We've met. So I ain't got no inside information. I know that somebody posted something, said they were a whistleblower, they raised some concerns. So I have no idea. And what was crazy is the first thing, I called him out from day one. You don't fire a president and you don't even say for cause. You don't even say why. They just not like, okay, he fired, thank you, we moving along, here's the interim president. I was like, this don't look right.
Yeah, and it didn't look right, right? I mean, everything from the beginning in terms of how they put out the press release, there are ways to be able to protect HR decisions where you can reference policy without violating confidentiality for personnel issues, right? So we saw this at Lincoln University when they investigated the president and his staff after Candy's suicide. And the board came out with a statement and they said very clearly, here's what we did in the investigation. Here's the policy we followed. Here's what we did. So you can do that, right? A board can do that with a very savvy communications person and really good counsel. So the fact that they tried to hide, and there were so many folks on the internet trying to hide behind, well, they can't talk about it because it's a personnel issue. That's not completely accurate, right? Well, and they brought the only reason. Another thing that came up, the only reason they brought him back was because they couldn't afford the buyout, the payout, and that's not accurate either because the documents show the evidence that they likely have what's called D&O insurance, directors and officers insurance. And so if you look at the 990s. This is documented in the 990s. And so they're paying about $21,000 a year for insurance management fees, which is likely D&O insurance. So if they fire someone, they can do an insurance claim, just like if I wreck my car, I can do an insurance claim to be paid in full, right? Or to be reinstated in terms of the loss. But you cannot file a claim for D&O if you violated your own policies. And that's exactly the letter that they put out. So the post that I did, the op-ed that I wrote last week, they had one of two options. They were going to have to come up with a stronger letter as to why they were standing on business and keeping him fired. And then it was going to go to court. And then it was going to have to go through a series of discovery. So they would have to show, just like you said, or they would have to reinstate him. So they only really had two options based on the publicly available information. So regardless of the whistleblower stuff, regardless of the hearsay that was going on in the internet, actual documents themselves support that this was one of two actions that they could do.
I don't take lightly calling for a whole board to resign, but this is egregious. This is so basic. If you've been on boards before, if you're sitting on the board and the chair or the vice chair or board member comes and says, I think we need to fire the president, boom, red flags go up. What's the basis? Why are we doing so? What's the action we're taking? What's precipitating this? Has there been any board investigation? Is it an internal investigation? Is it an external investigation? Can we see the reasons why? When did we start this year? When did we last do a review? Oh, the review took place just 2 or 3 months ago. Okay, so what transpired from the end of our review and now that then will justify us firing the president? Hey, could you please get us a copy of the president's contract so we can actually see the for cause and the without cause terms and clauses that are in the contract? Those are literally the most basic questions. I could ask those questions, Aaron, in my sleep. I could be in a coma and ask those questions. Those are the most basic fundamental questions you ask before you even think about voting to fire a president.
Can we go back to the point that you really made that was brilliant about the fiduciary responsibilities and governance responsibilities? So here's why I'm really nervous for this board and for Morris Brown, which is one of the nation's best HBCUs. Like, we love the school. Here's why I'm really nervous. Again, in the publicly available documents in the 990s that institutions have to file when they have 501c3 status, in Section 6, I want to make sure I get this right, Section 6 of the 990s, there's a section called governance and governing body and management. Question number 8 literally asks, I'm going to read this for you because this is why it's so important. Question number 8 asks, did the organization contemporaneously document the meeting of written action undertaken during governing body and each committee meeting? So the federal government, for your 501c3 status, you have to document all actions taken by the board, which means minutes, which means attendance, right? And so to your point earlier, you're assuming that there's no documentation of this. Well, if there isn't documentation of this action taken by the board, they're now violating what could potentially put their 990s at risk or put their 501c3 at risk. And that is massive. So if the board does not have documentation, they then put the entire institution and its foundational ability to bring in money at risk. And so they need to resign. Right. So I typically don't speak on that, but the documents that are publicly available very clearly say this is something that has to be done. All actions have to be documented and they have to be available either in some sort of contemporaneously or written documentation.
Before I go to the panel, this is the final one I'm sorry. This is a further example that exposes the magnitude of the incompetence of the Morris Brown College Board of Trustees. You are about to go through an accreditation review. Listen, I was a student at Texas A&M University, and Dr. Charles Self, who was the head of the journalism department, met with me and said, Roland, here's what's going on. The accreditation folks are coming in. We want you to be one of the students meeting with them, and here's what this means. I was a college student. And I understand that the last thing you do, I mean the absolute last thing you do, is do some dumb shit like erroneously fire your president a few months before an accreditation review, because that action alone could lead to you losing your accreditation. Like the financial aspect and the decision. And you're like, what are you thinking? What did we just hear from Asia and Dr. Kimbrough? Accreditation folks want to see stability and leadership. They want to see proper governance from board and fiduciary responsibility. So to your point, you fire a president that's exposing you to potentially paying him off. Ain't like Morris Brown got deep pockets. So you can't be trying to be paying two people at one time. That's how insane this is. And it's like, who in the hell voted for that, knowing that's right around the corner? That makes this even crazier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would respectfully push back, and that I would not say that it would be impossible to get through accreditation. But you also need to look at the leadership changes that have occurred most recently, right? So they tried to put Dr. James out. He just got a new provost. So those two top positions, to be new and or gone, would be highly problematic for somebody to lead the accreditation on the campus, right? So you're absolutely right. It was not a data-based decision. It was not an evidence-based move. It was grounded in something else that I don't know. But I just know the data it didn't make sense. Didn't make sense based on the data.
Melv, I'm gonna go to you first. Listen, if one of fellow HBCUs, you could weigh in however you want to weigh in. But I, when this happened, I was like, here was the first thing that jumped out at me, Melv. And again, I'm a journalist, so the first thing I went was, why? Then I read it. I went, I see no. Why? And then, because like literally, I got the call at 5:59. We go live at 6. Somebody sent me the text, and I read it. I went, hold up. And I saw James's Facebook post. I called him and said, hey, this real? And he's like, yeah. He said, I'm shocked, blah, blah. He said, I'm going to get my lawyer. We'll be talking in the next few days. And then a couple of days later, I see Aaron's post. And then I'm sitting here going, and I'm asking people around, like, this makes no sense to me. And then I was like, how did you? And then when this statement came out today, that's when I went, oh, my God, this is insane. They are literally admitting that we didn't follow damn procedures. That's just crazy to me.
You've said a lot tonight, friend, and I didn't have a lot to say because I felt like I would just have to go to Cardi B courtroom meme faces, and like that's all I had, okay? Because we're all mystified, we're all confused, and
Okay. I'll put it here. Okay, Melvin, let me take them out. You're a president.
But
I'm going to take that out. Let me take
yes.
that. You're a president.
Mhm.
If your board has some issues with your leadership, I would assume you would like for your board chair or to say, hey, can you come talk to the board? We have some issues. Lay those out. Okay. Let me address your concerns or let me respond. Allow me to fix whatever. That's actually what you do. The whole point, firing the president is like the last thing you want to do. You want to do a lot of things before you get to that point. Now, sometimes some egregious stuff where remember the Jackson State president got busted with a prostitute. Yeah, his ass got fired immediately, so he was gone. Okay, he was gone. Yeah, I mean that's just fact. I mean that hit the news and everything. But the bottom line is that's what you do. What you don't want is literally to wake up and go, "What? I'm fired," and then it's like the first thing you do when you get fired is, "Y'all didn't read my contract." That's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
First
And,
thing
and so you that's the first thing. And so, and the other piece is, when you think about boards, I am also on a higher ed board, which I'm one of the unique presidents that serves as a president and also serves as a board member for another university. And here is what you have to think of. In this unique opportunity of being on a board, you have to think about the entirety of the institution and knowing that in just a few months, and I'm not sure exactly when so Morris Brown is accredited by the Transnational Association for Christian Colleges and Schools. It's called TRACS. And they will have a reaffirmation coming up the end of this month or February. This is critical. This is a critical review, and Morris Brown is, and I'm not. It's in a fragile state. But for any institution that is about to go through a review, you are. It's the Super Bowl. It is the Super Bowl, and so disrupting the ecosystem at this time is a little difficult. You kind of got low cards at this point if you know that you have to present yourself, you have to be able to show the institution to be financially stable, academically stable, the facilities must be in a certain place, and you need your quarterback to be in optimal position to be able to showcase the institution in the best light. And so right now my message is to my friend, because he is my friend and I do know him very well, good brother, good person. And right now, I encourage you, Kevin James, to stay the course. You have to get back in the game and refocus yourself on the institution to move it forward in spite of everything that is going on around you.
but
And that means the board and what's happening.
but
Because,
I gotta ask you this here. I gotta ask you this here.
Mhm.
Before I go to Mustafa and Joe, I gotta ask you this here. How do you move forward as a president and trust your board when this happens? That is a significant breach right there. How do you even trust talking to them, sharing with them? How do you not walk around paranoid that, oh, they're going to be sitting here looking for any reason to terminate me after this kind of thing happens? That has to be top of mind.
Yeah, it is top of mind. And right now, what you don't want to do is slip in something big like this accreditation review. And right now, your livelihood is on the line. This is what matters. And that accreditation review is what matters in this moment. And if that doesn't go well, then potentially, the board might have some opportunities to say, to dig deeper in that, and whatever happens there. But you have to get your head in the game and get focused on this review because that is critical. Morris Brown has come back. We've all enjoyed the success story, the Hail Mary. He's gotten them, to this point with community support, with so many others in the city of Atlanta supporting Morris Brown coming back. And right now, we're all looking to you, Kevin James, my friend, to make this successful and to, again, it may not be trust right there, right now, but and that's going to be an uphill battle for them to repair that. If it even is some reparations there, But I tell you what, right now you have to focus on this review and get that institution through the finish line. And that's what matters right now.
Joe, you're a lawyer. If you had a client came to you, said, hey, Joe, they just fired me, you gonna say, dog, we about to get paid. They didn't fire you. They didn't fire you for cause. We got a 3-year contract. You just had a great review. Yeah, we got us a good case here, player.
No doubt about it. The reason why, we look both ways before we cross the street is because when we walk into the street, if we don't look both ways before we cross the street, we could get hit by a car. And so if you're getting ready to fire somebody, I tell people this all the time. I just went back and forth on one of these that was much smaller, shall we say. We deal with big ones, but sometimes as a public service, you help some folks that are close by that don't have big cases, but it's very important to them. And the first thing I'm looking for as an employee's lawyer is what the rules actually say. Employers get in trouble all the time for not following their own rules. So the first thing I'm looking for is how this thing is regulated. Is there a contract? Is there for cause? What actually happened, etc. And so he has them dead to rights. And that's why they brought him back, because they look like hell anyway. I mean, let's just keep it real. They look like hell anyway. I would argue that he has damages for even being undone for just a week. And I would also argue that, God forbid, they don't get the accreditation. It's not so clear that it's just because of him, because now he's got to make a presentation to the accreditation folk. It's not just a because presentation, it's a despite presentation, particularly if the board stays around. He's going to have to put a point that was just made, he's going to have to put the best face on this thing. He is the key, because the accreditation folk have got to believe him, because he's the stable one who's got his head on straight that they brought back. But there's no question that it would be a continuing discussion, to my mind, even if it's not resolved right away and I come back and my client comes back, because of the urgency of the situation, which has been spoken to, the extent of his actual damages. I would argue that that's yet to be determined. And I would argue that, of course, he had them dead to rights. And hopefully, for Morris Brown's sake, they're able to get this thing together and keep it together, because they got nothing like having terrible timing. They really did something that had the potential, in a worst case, to undo themselves in a major, major way.
Mustafa, then a final comment from Aaron. Mustafa, go.
That folks have shared has been incredibly important. So first of all, it was just messy. It's been messy from the first time that we've heard about this, the language that was used, and then how they've colored it also. When you really read that letter, and the language that they left in there makes you question certain things and wonder about characters and all these other types of things. You just don't need to do that. For me, one of the additional important parts is the students, right? I appreciate earlier the guests who shared about Morris Brown being a fantastic institution. I agree with that. I spent plenty of time on the AU Center. I'm always wondering how students are being impacted by, what they're seeing and hearing, and wondering what the future looks like for them, especially since, MBC has now been able to come back and become that institution that so many of us had always prayed that it would be. So I'm just hoping that the students are okay, and all these conversations about the president and the board, which are incredibly important, and people unpacking that. We spent time on that, but no one has really talked about the students and the impact to them. So I just wanted to bring that into our conversation, whether it's Dr. Wallace or other guests, if they have all those years of experience and they want to share sort of how it impacts the students. I think that would be important for us to close out this segment.
Yeah, Aaron, because at the end of the day, here's the deal. You're now putting yourself at risk. Now you're going to have students who say, and parents, hey, I don't know about sending my kid there. Walter made the point earlier that if you got a Mackenzie Scott sitting out there, they may have been considering Morris Brown because of your turnaround. They're not putting your name at the bottom of the list because they're like, hold up, y'all can't even fire a president, right? And that's what I'm saying. That the reason I call for the resignation is because this board failed the most basic principle of a board of trustees, to properly govern the institution. This action right here just says we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and then they admitted it. They literally put it in. That's even more incompetent. You
Right.
put your screw up in the press release.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I would say to those who are questioning whether or not what this means, don't stop supporting Morris Brown, right? If anything, this is the time to bring those checkbooks out, right? Because they're going to need additional resources to help rebuild some of the infrastructure to make sure something like this never happens.
But
The students should
Aaron,
not
I
have to suffer.
can't. I'm sorry. I can't cut a check until no. I
feel
get your
you.
point. No, not just me. If I am a parent, if I'm a student, if I'm a graduate, if I'm a corporate donor, I can't cut a check until this is addressed. I cannot. I'm gonna damn this sheet of paper. I'm gonna need let me pull it up here. Hold on. I'm gonna need the presiding prelate. I'm gonna need the vice chair. I'm gonna go down again. I'm gonna need Michael Mitchell, Daryl Hicks, Terry Comer, Muhammad Bala, Gwendolyn Boyd, Pedro Bryant, James Ewers, Lisa Herring, Gregory Jackson, Eric Thornton, Antoine Walker, Sandra Mason, Lisa Tolliver, Clarence Todd Williamson. I'm gonna need them to explain what the hell happened, because I can't fork over Jack, because if you did this, you're going to screw something else up soon. You can't even get the most basic thing right.
I mean that's fair, right? But what I'm saying is the money doesn't go to the board, right? So the boards do not have operational governance of the finances of the institution. They are supposed to overlook the policy around that. They're supposed to help support the strategy behind that. They're supposed to bring their own resources so that the coffers of the institution can be filled. And so what I would say for those who have questions around that right now, support the leadership and continue doing that, because we don't want the students to suffer because of something that non-employees of the institution chose to do.
Hey, I understand that, but I'm going to tell you right now, when the Houston Independent School District was looking to fire the principal of Jack Yates High School, and they really couldn't explain it, I stood in front of that HISD and I said, if y'all make this move, I'm going to do two things. One, you're giving me my $25,000 back, what I created for scholarships for Jack Yates High School students that I gave to the school district to manage. Now, I said, I'm going to take it for myself and then do it myself. I said, two, I'm going to do my show outside of this school building every single damn week. You have a school board meeting, and I'm going to stay on your ass until y'all do something. They went in that back room, took a vote. They didn't fire that principal. My whole point is this here. In fact, each speaker only had like 60 seconds or 2 minutes, and one of the board members said, well, because of who Roland Martin is, let's just give him as much time as he needs. That's exactly what happened. I'm sorry. You got to use whatever lever, what this action, and again, when I was looking at your videos, I was like, let's see what they do. But when I read this letter, and when I saw that they admitted that they failed the most basic stuff, I have zero trust or confidence in the leadership of the existing Morris Brown College Board of Trustees. If you can't even ask for the man's contract first before you fire him, I can't trust you to negotiate a facilities contract, a food services contract.
So the board shouldn't be doing that.
No.
The board shouldn't be doing that at all.
Hold up. I can't trust you to hire the next president. I can't trust you to do a damn thing. If you can't even get it right to fire somebody, I damn sure can't trust you to hire. This is really a basic, fundamental thing. And I'm telling you, I just went through this listen, it was some board members of NABJ not happy with me. And I looked them in the eye and said, how in the hell did you join this board? And in the 2 years, you never read the Constitution. That is your governing document. There's no amount of excuses that I would accept when somebody admits to me, yeah, I never read it. I'm sorry. They got to go. The board of trustees has to go because this does not instill confidence in anybody. And it's a shame we're saying that, but they brought this on themselves by this dumbass action.